Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast episode 44. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa, and in this podcast, I will share stories, lessons, and insights about people having success in Africa. Why this podcast? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the world's greatest resource, that's young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world, and when these people achieve success, watch out. Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. Why? Because I don't know of too many Africans whose goal in life it is to die poor. You see, success in life is simply the achievement of a predetermined goal. Whether that goal is owning a house and a car, or creating employment for 100 people, or transforming your village into a city, this podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So, if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you like this video after you've watched it, please click the like button. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership enhancement company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online. The link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. Today, I am continuing and concluding our series on political economies. The term political economy just simply refers to the nexus between the actions and decisions of government and the actions and decisions of business people. You see, the actions and decisions of each group affect the other. And I will illustrate the importance of understanding political economies by charting the journey of 4 people. This is the 4th episode of the series. So if you've missed the first 3, episodes 41, 42, 43, I encourage you to go and watch those episodes after you have finished watching this episode. So, today we're going to look at the journey of one of East Africa's top cosmetic entrepreneurs, Miss Nelly Tuikong, a native of Kenya. Nelly Tuikong is the founder of Pauline Cosmetics, a brand of cosmetics that is probably best known across the 47 counties of Kenya. Notice I did not say just Nairobi, but across all the counties of Kenya. Nelly, by the way, is far from the prototypical entrepreneur in terms of how she grew up. She grew up in a rural farm, living a simple life, and had a dream of becoming a nurse like her mother. But she was rejected 3 times when she applied to nursing school in Kenya. But in what can only be described as a divine intervention, she ended up being sponsored by an American missionary couple to go to nursing school in America. Now, while in America, she struggled to find makeup that fit her skin tone and her budget, and realized that, you know what, there must be a market for people like me that have Black African skin tone, not Black American African skin tone or white skin tone, and also that do not have a high top brand budget. She finished her nursing studies and returned to Kenya, no longer really passionate about working as a nurse, but keen on developing cosmetics. For a while, she did it on the side because, frankly, she felt guilty about the fact that, think about it. People had paid for her to go to nursing school. And yet, after she has learned nursing, she comes back to Africa, having been trained as a nurse, working as a nurse, but now she's more interested in cosmetics. What is that? After a few years of warring and frankly of moonlighting as a cosmetics entrepreneur while working as a nurse, she finally, in a sense, came out of the closet and launched her brand to let people know that Pauline Cosmetics was here to stay. And that's the name she gave the company, the brand, Pauline Cosmetics, naming it after her mother. Now, she would order her cosmetics from Kenya, design them, and then order it from Kenya, store the products in a room in her house. Her first awareness of the importance of political economies occurred when her friend's account was frozen by the US government on suspicion of offshoring and money laundering because Nelly was using that friend's US bank account to pay her suppliers in China. Nelly had to step in with the US authorities and prove that the money was going to a legitimate party in Asia. Can you imagine that? That would break some friendships. Now, her second experience with political economies occurred probably a couple of months later when her container of cosmetic products was held up at the port of Mombasa because the Kenya Revenue Authority charged her double the regular fees that they used to charge her for her products. She learned very quickly the value of good relationships with public sector decision makers. She ended up spending an entire week in Mombasa, including a full day just sitting at the commissioner's office at the port of Mombasa, waiting just to see him. Eventually, after investing time and energy into understanding how this charge was brought about and developing a relationship with the commissioner, she was able to get her entire shipment re-evaluated and the charges were reduced, and she was able to clear her goods. These lessons taught Nelly the importance of being aware of the actions and decisions of government and how they can influence her business. At the same time, by the way, she was challenged with selling her products in Nairobi because there were lots of established international brands in Nairobi. However, she learned that the government of Kenya was in the midst of decentralizing the system of governance. Some people call it devolution, establishing 47 counties, each with its own government and county headquarters. This change was a big change, and it was going to lead, and it led to a growth of like second-tier cities that were financed by an influx of government officials and government funds, leading to opportunity for commercial activity and economic growth outside of the two big hubs of Nairobi and Mombasa. Nelly was quick to capitalize on this. She established a sales force that was based in these second-tier towns, and these people, her salespeople, would spend their days in the shops where Pauline Cosmetics products would be sold along with other products. Now, these shops were not owned or operated by Pauline Cosmetics. She simply provided her product to local shop owners, beauty shop owners, who would stock a range of products. But because the other brands really did not take the time to cultivate their market in these second-tier cities, and Nelly went over and above by not only cultivating, but actually putting her salespeople to stay in the shop after getting agreement from the shop owners, this actually ended up skyrocketing her sales in these second-tier towns. Plus, the shop owners didn't mind because they got a bit of free labor in the form of salespeople. So, with that, Nelly was able to grow her business significantly in these 47 counties outside of the two major hubs of Nairobi and Mombasa. And you know what? She learned that there was even more wealth in these smaller urban centers than she had ever imagined, due to particularly the agriculture boom and also tourism boom. And frankly, with the rapid influence of social media and technology in these places that were somewhat rural, but small urban, the demand for cosmetics rose because people in these areas, now with access to see global icons right there on their phones and through the internet, started to want and desire these kinds of cosmetics. And that's how Pauline Cosmetics grew literally outside of the radar of the international brands until it became so big that it has become the force that it is today. I chose to profile Nelly about learning about political economies because her business is not typically the size of business or the type of business, frankly, that anyone would think that the owner needs to know much about government policies and people. You see, unlike Mossadeck Bali of Mali, who I profiled last week, she's not operating a gigantic hotel conglomerate that she purchased from government assets. Her business, Nelly's business, for many years, frankly, in fact, didn't even cater to a market outside Kenya, not even to the Kenyan diaspora. She focused exclusively on the local Kenyan market for the first decade of her business. And yet she learned, sometimes through painful experience, the importance of being aware of government policy and laws, both as a means of protecting her business, but also as a means of creating a competitive advantage for her business. So, here are two big lessons about political economies that I have learned from Nelly's journey. Lesson number one, government policies matter. They can change the direction of capital and create economic tides that your business can either ride or get swept away by. In Nelly's case, she almost lost her business when her money was frozen in her friend's account by the US government. That could have tanked her business. This made her learn about international finance laws and how to ensure that she doesn't fall afoul of these laws. At the same time, she then rode the wave of the 2013 law and policy change in Kenya that created 47 counties and county governments and moved a lot of federal or state money from Nairobi, creating bigger economies in smaller tier cities. This was a tidal wave that Nelly successfully rode by investing in salespeople in these cities, and she was able to grow her business away from the prying eyes of the international brands that were busy fighting for market share in Nairobi and Mombasa. That's lesson number one. Government policies matter. Lesson number two, establishing and maintaining relationship with policy implementers is very important, especially the ones whose decisions can influence your business. See, that lesson Nelly learned with the revenue commissioner in Mombasa, at the port of Mombasa. Without establishing that relationship, she could have lost her entire shipment. Now she has established relationships. She continues to import from China. Her products may be designed in Kenya, but they are made in China. So she leverages the production capacity in China while also leveraging the market knowledge to design and order the right products for her market in Kenya. That's lesson number two. Invest in appropriate relationships with policy implementers whose decisions can affect your business. So, as I conclude this series on political economies, I want to emphasize the fact that you don't need to study political science in university to understand the importance of political economies. You just need to recognize that in order to be successful in Africa, it is important to cultivate relationships with people in both public and private sector and to be aware of the policies and priorities of the government, whether at national level, state level, county level, that oversee the areas where your business operates. No matter the size of your business, policies matter. and decisions made can influence how much or how successful you can be in Africa. So don't be turned off by the word politics like it's a dirty word that's in political economies. Remember, the word politics means of the people. And whatever you are trying to do to be successful in Africa, it involves people. Whether it's providing products for them or providing services for them. And therefore, you need to be interested in the policies that govern the people and the people who are appointed and elected to create and implement these policies. That is the importance of political economies. All too soon, we've come to the end of today's episode and the end of this 4-part series on political economies. I do hope you've learned a bit more about the importance of political economies and how, frankly, you can leverage your knowledge of them to support the growth and success of your investment in Africa. Next week, we're going to start a brand new series. This series will be focused on a topic that has me more excited and more nervous than I've ever been in planning and recording a podcast. The topic is relationships. We're going to learn about the opportunities and challenges in cultivating good relationships and the importance of these to becoming successful in Africa. As usual, we will learn about these through the journeys of a few successful Africans. Don't miss it. Some of what I have to share will be very eye-opening for you. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Please tell your friends about it because together we can transform our beloved continent of Africa. I'll see you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.